What is up, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about how Patriots undrafted free agent, defensive end / DT, Nick Coe very well could be the steal of the draft for the New England Patriots, especially when you look at all of the UDFA signings that they made. Before we hop into this video, though, I want to give a big shout out to the newest Patreon, to the Patriots Global Patreon family here. This guy is going to be Patriots Highlights, a very big contributor to the channel, a guy who's always commenting, a guy who's always in the lives. My guy, I want to thank you for going the extra mile. I'm super happy to have you in the Discord, and I'm looking forward to either having you on the channel or playing some Madden. Now, of course, if you want to become a Patreon, support the channel, and get some benefits, like always, there'll be a link in the description below where you can donate. Some of the benefits that you can get through this Patreon is going to be some 1v1 Madden with me, or Fortnite, of course, your choice. The ability to come on the channel and talk New England Patriots football, get a shout out in my next video, and of course, join a Discord with me and all the other Patreon Patriots fans. Now, to head on with this video, the Patriots had selected many, and I mean many, undrafted free agents, also known as UDFAs. Because of the amount that they selected, I made a prediction, something that I stand by, that this could be a season where more than one UDFA makes the Patriots' final roster, because they signed basically twice as many as they usually do, because they had so much opening spots on the roster, because they didn't have enough money to go out and make big trades or make signings in free agency. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a video basically on my top Patriots UDFA signings, and spoiler alert, Nick Coe was one of them. Now, if you're interested in hearing the others, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can check that video out. But Nick Coe is a very, very interesting prospect here when you look at his history and his story, and kind of how he made his way to surprisingly becoming an undrafted selection. He's a guy that was honestly considered as a premier NFL prospect. He was actually surprisingly viewed as a potential first-round talent after he racked up 7 sacks and 13.5 tackles for loss in his redshirt year in 2018. That was actually crazy to me personally when I heard that, the fact that he was almost a first-round pick. He was viewed as someone who very well could go in the first round, and the Patriots got him without having to give up a single draft selection. It's also interesting when you look at the people that he played with in Auburn. Let's remember that his teammates in Auburn, Derrick Brown, who went 7th overall, and Marlon Davidson, who went 47th overall, they both put themselves in the top 50 picks this past year. But the sad part is that Coe's production plummeted a lot this past year, and that is a big reason that his draft status also took a very big drop. Another big reason that his status did drop here is because he has had some off-the-field issues. When you mix the off-the-field issues he's had, that also puts a concern and is a big reason why a player's draft status will drop. But also the fact that his stats dropped this past year was a big reason why he dropped ultimately in the draft and was there to be a UDFA signing by the Patriots. A lot of people are going to look at the fact that the Patriots got him as a UDFA as he's not consistent, he's a terrible player, and he will go out to be nothing. And I could not disagree with that statement any more than I already have tried to in the past. Anybody who is real in sports, anybody who genuinely knows even the littlest thing about sports and the draft, whether that's in the NBA or whether that's the NFL, you know that a draft selection is just a number. So many people today think that if you're selected in the first round, then that means you are the best of the best, that you're going to end up being a Pro Bowler, that you are going to make the world of difference on a team, and that's just not the case. I mean, let's look at some first-round picks in the past. Josh Rosen was a first-round pick. Philip Dorsett was a first-round pick. Jameis Winston was a first-round pick. Danny Shelton was a first-round pick. We could go on and on and on talking about people who are selected in the first round and genuinely just ended up not doing much, not living up to that hype. And then there's people who were drafted in later rounds. We're talking about guys like Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, Antonio Brown, guys who were selected in the 4th round, the 6th round, the 7th round, rounds that people don't expect these guys to become anything and are now some of the best players to ever play in the game. Now, Coe is still very young. He's only 22 years old. His best years are still ahead of him, and he still has a lot of time to develop. He finished his final year in the SEC with just 15 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 0 sacks. Of course, again, that is a big production loss compared to what he had in 2018 with his 7 sacks and 13.5 tackles for loss. Now, guys, before we hop into this, I do have to let you know that with everything going around in the world, you might think that there's not much to do, but I'm here to tell you that there's no shortage of action going on with our exclusive partners, betonline.ag. For those of you who love NASCAR, you know that NASCAR is back, and BetOnline has hundreds of games, events, and sports that you can still get on no matter what is going on in the world. I know that a lot of you are also NFL fans, and guess what? You can bet on simulated NFL, NBA, and UFC, or even participate in a $10,000 Madden Bracket Challenge. Basically, what that is a March Madness style NFL simulation tournament that you can enter, get this, for completely free. You might not be able to go to the casinos and bet and play poker or whatnot, but BetOnline is making sure that they bring this to you from the comfort of your own home and bringing the casino to you. Now, if you guys are interested, make sure you visit the website or use your mobile device and join today to receive your new welcome bonus and check out all of the action. Guys, BetOnline, your online wagering solution. Now, interestingly enough, Coe decided to skip Auburn's bowl game and his senior season to enter the 2020 NFL Draft. And of course, we all know he was not among the 255 players selected. Now, this very well could be good for the Patriots, but bad for Coe. Now, Coe could have just had a down season. This happens many, many times to a bunch of different players. Of course, again, he was expected to be a potential first-round pick from the stats he had in 2018. He could have, if he played in his senior season and played in Auburn's bowl game, could have reestablished himself, especially with some of the top defensive linemen in Auburn out, in Derrick Henry and Marlon Davidson out and in the NFL. So for next year's draft, he could have risen his status and becoming a higher NFL draft pick. Luckily enough for the Patriots, that didn't happen, so they didn't have to waste, again, a single draft selection on this guy, and I think that the ceiling, again, is just super high for the potential that they could be getting out of him. Now, Coe was a prospect that visibly had a good amount of interest in the NFL following the conclusion of the 2020 NFL Draft and heading into the UDFA selections. The Buffalo Bills jumped on the opportunity to sign Nick Coe following the draft. He was a guy that they essentially really just wanted to land, help bolster their defense, heading into what is expected to be a great season for Buffalo. Something ended up falling through with the contract. Coe ended up still being a UDFA, and the Patriots made sure that they jumped on the opportunity before they could final a contract between Coe and Buffalo or Coe and some other team. His contract includes $40,000 in guaranteed money. Surprisingly, that is only the 9th highest total for the New England Patriots 15 UDFA class. He was also going to bring just a really nice NFL build heading into, of course, the NFL, switching from college to pros. I think that is something that professionally he already has going for him, listed at 6'5", 291 pounds. Something that I think Belichick's going to love about this guy, and I think that's something that essentially could be the make or break reason that he stays with the team, is going to be his versatility. He can play all over the defensive line. If the Patriots want him to play at defensive end, if they wanted to play at defensive tackle or even at outside linebacker, he's able to do so. That versatility is going to be key for him to make the roster and essentially is going to be key for the New England Patriots. This defense is going to be what bolsters the New England Patriots season and essentially is going to be what carries on their season for 2020 with all the question marks they have offensively. The Patriots do have a good amount of guys who are already able to set the edge, but when you have a guy like Coe, that 6'5", 291 build, a guy who again was almost a first round selection, I don't see why he couldn't get snaps at that defensive end position. But also, when you look at the defensive tackle position, the New England Patriots really do need some help there. One, at run stopping, but two, getting some pressure within the interior of the defensive line. Right now, when you look at all the guys on the interior of the D-line, Adam Butler is the biggest guy that stands out. Now, a guy like Byron Cowart, now he is a guy that has potential. He is someone who is a guy that showed the ability to get some pressure within the interior, but there's still a lot of question marks surrounding him. So bringing in a guy like Coe, someone who could fill in at DE or even be placed in at DT or even help out at the linebacker position is going to be very beneficial for the Patriots as long as he can make the plays. Now, in interviews when I did my research, this is what an Auburn coach told reporters during the preseason camp. He said that he can play outside, he can play inside, he can play off the ball. He's a very versatile player that gives our defense a lot of flexibility. It's kind of rare, but I think it's a good rare. Bill Belichick loves, of course, his air quote, Swiss Army knife players, the guys who are so versatile, can do everything and can be very productive at that. That's a big reason why he drafted tight end Dalton Keene in the 3rd round this past year and really traded up a lot of draft capital to get him. And then from what I've heard from Patriots fans, that's a big reason why they like Dalton Keene is because he's a Swiss Army knife. And that is exactly what is being said about Nick Coe, especially in his 2018 campaign. Now, while Coe is versatile, well, he does have experience at playing DT, DE, and off-the-ball linebacker. A big reason that he could have been stinted in his statistics in 2019 could have been because of the switch they made. They were kind of placing him everywhere. He didn't have just one sole purpose, and because of that, he kind of wasn't up to the par, for lack of better words. He even said, and I quote, that this past year was uncomfortable and everything. Now, currently, it is unclear how the Patriots do plan to utilize Coe, but he is going to need to buy into the Patriots atmosphere, what Bill Belichick loves to do. Him being versatile is going to be key in the NFL and key for him making his name heard on the Patriots. So, although he might have been uncomfortable in Auburn, although they might have done him wrong in some ways, kind of just trying to place him everywhere in different games, he is going to need to get used to possibly playing in many different positions. Now, I think that when he does come to the Patriots, it isn't going to be what it was like in Auburn, you know? Playing DE at one point, playing DT another, playing off the ball linebacker another. I think that it will be more clean and crisp on what the Patriots will want to do with him, but he is still going to be a guy that is going to have to get used to playing all over the defensive line. But that is going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on Nick Coe? I really like him. I really like the selection, and I have very high hopes for him. I think that he can be a guy that truly does make this roster this upcoming season. He's just got to show that first-round talent that we saw in 2018. I think if anybody is going to be able to get that out, it's going to be Bill Belichick, and it's going to be the Patriots coaching staff. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know what you're feeling in the comments section below. Like this video if you haven't already, guys. It really helps me in the channel out very, very much. And of course, it is completely free to just smash that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already for all of your New England Patriots news. But other than that, I will catch you guys in my next video.